We're inching closer and closer to the start of the NBA draft in a few weeks, and Sixers still sitting at number 3. Who are they going to take? We've been talking about it for much of their season since the back end of the season was terrible, and we knew that they were going to be in the draft somewhere, hopefully somehow keeping the pick. They do so, and we're still talking about all of these prospects, how they fit, and what the Philadelphia 76ers may do. To get some help with that, we're going to speak to ESPN's college basketball analyst, Seth Greenberg. But first, of course, welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on a Wednesday with Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck. I'm Devon Givens, president of basketball operations, Bree, hanging out with us as always. Great to see all of you in the chat. And we're going to get started right away. We'll get to a few things a little bit later on around the NBA because we got some big news there.
Oh, yeah.
Some huge news. And we'll do all of that a little bit later. Get your comments, get your super chats. We'll get it all and fit it all in to the show on this Tuesday. But first, welcoming in for the first time on the PHLY Sixers podcast from ESPN, Seth Greenberg, college basketball analyst, longtime coach as well. Seth, thanks for taking the time to hang out with us to talk over some of these prospects here with us today.
All good. All good. You guys got a lot of tough decisions to make, and it has been a big day if those rumors are true about Tibbs. So it's pretty crazy. Go to the finals of the Eastern Conference and you don't retain your job. That's kind of a joke, to be honest with you.
We don't know much about getting to the conference finals around here in Philadelphia. It's been a while since that was.
Well, you got to trust the process.
Yeah.
That's some BS.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we're right off the top, it is surprising that it has been talked about. It was more talked about, Seth, with the Knicks in the first round when things looked a little bleak, maybe against the Detroit Pistons, but they did get to the conference finals, getting to that spot. And so you said it's a joke.
Let me ask you, who are you going to get?
Well, first thing we thought of was Mike Malone as the first thought, and then we don't know much.
I'm a Mike fan. I like Mike fan. They'll play faster. They'll play with a more flow. Mike Malone was a camper and a ball boy at the 5-star basketball camp when I was a young aspiring coach. His dad, Brendan Malone, obviously a great high school coach at Power Memorial, coached in the NBA, coached in college. But I'm a huge Mike Malone fan. But here's the deal. I mean, the Knicks were built a certain way, and Tibbs played the way they were built. That's just the way it is. And if you're going to make that change, then you better say, well, you know what? Is Mike Malone going to get Karl Anthony Towns to get to the level of the screen? Is he going to get him to change ends of the floor defensively? Is he going to do the things you need to do? He might. But, Tom's a really, really good coach who the players really believe in and play for.
Yeah, well, we'll see where that leads as far as the Knicks go. But for us here, as Kyle said, Seth, they have a ways to go to get to the conference finals. Health, of course, start there, but getting a young player like the Sixers could potentially get here at the 3rd overall pick will help that a long way, maybe. And there's been a big split, Seth, among Sixer fans about Ace Bailey. He's the first name that comes out of everybody's mouth here locally, and speaking about the Sixers in general, with the style of play, the fit with the team as well. From seeing him as a top high school prospect and his career at Rutgers, the 1 year, as an analyst and putting your coaching hat on, what is your evaluation of him as a player and how it translates to the NBA?
Well, the guy's a bucket. He's not a great shooter, but he's a tough shot maker. Doesn't have great handle, doesn't make game easy for anyone else. Got to get better defensively. He has defensive skills and defensive range, even though he measured out at 6'7", I think, in the combine, and I think a 7+ wingspan. But look, the guy is a very, very potentially good offensive player. He's going to get stronger. If he was 6'11", people said Durant. I think that was a little bit of a stretch, although his game was a little bit like Durant. At 6'7", even though he has the high release point, a little bit erratic in terms of making shots. It's hard to evaluate that team in general because Harper, obviously, and Ace had their injuries across the season. They never got a chance to get a really good feel for the game, and the players that surrounded him weren't all that good in relation to the competition. But the guy can score, and I think he'll be able to score in the NBA. It's all the other things you have to do to win. I mean, they need winning players. They need guys with toughness that can grow with the organization, but that can impact winning. And I think you need two-way players to do that.
So to that point, Seth, the interview that you guys did with Ace at the Combine over at ESPN got a lot of traction for, Ace is a very confident kid. He's not afraid to say what he thinks he's good at and doesn't think there's a lot that he's bad at. But I guess, what do you make of that? Do you think, having spent some time with him, that this is a kid who is malleable, is willing to come into a more vet-heavy team like this and say, no, I'll do the dirty work. I'll be a spot-up guy and playing off a Maxey and Embiid, a Paul George? Or does he want to come in and say, look, I am a big dog. I'm coming in to, get buckets and score?
Well, you want him to get bucks and score. That's because who he is. But there's a pecking order in every lineup. And there's a guy like Maxey, I think he's going to be a volume scorer. He's a volume shooter. And if you're going to have Paul George, who can also initiate outfits and do some other things and defend, but he's going to get his shots. And obviously the biggest question with the Sixers is Embiid in terms of availability. Can you count on the dude? That's really, I don't know how many years he's been with the Sixers. It's been a bunch. And how many games he's missed. It's been a bunch. Can you count on the guy? It's plain and simple. It's great that you have a guy that has potential to be an impact player. You're great for a big guy that can score on the block and step away and short roll and do some different things. But is he going to be available? And how many games can he play? Because if he can't play and he's not available, can you count on him? And then if you can't count on him, then it puts more pressure on Paul George, who you really sometimes can't count on.
Yeah.
And Tyrese. I don't think, in my opinion, you got to figure out, can we have two guys on our roster that are not always available? It's plain and simple. You're trying to get better. Can you have two guys on your roster that, are available, but they're not available? Two guys on your roster, if you look at the history and their medical histories, they have not been available for long periods of time together. So, it's like, do you continue to do the same thing, or you try to get value out of one of those guys and improve your roster top to bottom in terms of having guys that Nick Nurse can count on? Because let me ask you guys, you lived and breathed and died as Sixers. Can you count on Joel Embiid? Yes or no?
We've talked about this a ton, Seth, and I think we're all
yes or no.
I think it's no. I think the body of work is the body of work, right? You can say, hey, maybe this surgery helps, and maybe you scale him back, and maybe you do this, but ultimately, he's been here, to your point, 10 years now, including the missed seasons, right? 2014. And so you have to try to build a team that is not inherently reliant on him, right? If you have him and he returns to form, great. But if you don't, you still have to try to win games, especially if you're, Tyrese Maxey, who's 24-25, has become a 25, 26 point per game scorer, needs guys alongside him that can help him try to win games right now, not 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, look, they have a lot of ifs. That's what that roster is. There's a lot of ifs, and that's whether it's good or bad. Now, you try to take those ifs and try to, create some value for those guys to get guys that you can count on. Ace Bailey, look, he has a chance to be really special, but in terms of a shot maker, Trey Johnson is an elite shot maker. Good off the ball, got much better on the ball, can pass it, good size. Not the size that in terms of length that Ace Bailey has, but he's a big time scorer, shot maker that I think, a poor man's Ray Allen, but maybe a little bigger, but a guy that is built to play every single night and has upside as well. So, and Jeremiah Fears, could you put him with Tyrese Maxey if you wanted to, maybe make a trade and keep your draft choice and try to trade up by getting rid of a valuable piece? Jeremiah Fears, as 18 years old, has got a little Kyrie in his game. So, I think that the Sixers, they've got to figure out, it's almost like a game of poker, what to hold and what to fold. It's really that simple, and hope you're making the right decisions. Could Embiid have a great year somewhere else? He could, but that would be the first time. What's the max number of games he's played in the year?
It's a great question.
60, mid-60s,
yeah, mid to high 60s, but that's on the high end, obviously. There have been more 50s or 40s or less. The last couple of years, barely played at all.
All right, so let me ask you, how many organizations that are taken seriously have a guy that's supposedly their leader and the face of their organization that plays 40 games a year?
It's a fair point.
Yeah. I mean, Kawhi, but it's not like they have necessarily, he's probably the only one you would point to that has any real success. And even when they won the title, like he played 60 some games that year.
And
right?
that's the outlier. Like the rest of it since then, since the 2019 year in Toronto, it's been much trickier. Seth, as you bring up, defense and toughness and availability and things like that, we've talked a lot about a VJ Edgecombe on this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a kid that we've heard lots of glowing reviews about him, not just as a player, but like as a person, right? You go back to him playing in the Bahamas and showing out there. And so I guess, what's your impression of him and what sort of things have you heard about him as not just a player, but as a guy that's part of your culture?
Well, he's great. I mean, Scott Drew does a great job with his players. And, talk world-class athlete, two-way player, crazy bounce, improved three-point shooting, can get to the rim, switchable, got a toughness about him, loves the game, not good handle, not great handle, but straight line driver, really good in transition. If you're going to play it off an advanced pass, play maybe more like the Pacers play, where you're going to try to really attack an open floor and play with space. I like Edgecombe. I like Edgecombe a lot. He's not the shot maker Trey Johnson is, but he's probably more ready as a two-way player. He could be an elite defender. He could be an elite wing that plays ahead of the defense. He could be a guy that gets to the free throw line. He could be a guy that, will develop into just, a perimeter player, a perimeter scorer per se. I'm looking at my notes right here. I mean, I'm a big, just off the top notes are freak athlete, improved shooter, two-way player, dog.
And we love some dogs here in Philadelphia, as I'm sure you know, Seth.
Yeah, I mean, dog in a good way.
Yeah.
So those are my, I do one or two just lines for, each guy just to fire things out when I do stuff like that. He is a dog.
Just going back to Ace real quickly, because I think he's the most talked about one at 3. You mentioned some of his weaknesses, and specifically the ball handling and the passing and the playmaking. Rutgers was a little bit of a unique situation in the fact that the supporting cast around him was really, really poor. Obviously, he'll get better as he matures and grows and understands the game more. But how much do you think that context at Rutgers played into our perception of him and how we view him as a prospect?
A little bit. Like, everyone thinks Ace Bailey, Harper, and they're going to be great. College basketball's hard. It looks a lot easier on TV than it is in reality. So, those guys, we're going to win the national championship. We're going to go to the Final Four. I remember listening to these guys' interviews when they committed to Rutgers. They had no freaking clue how they had to play in college. They had no clue. They had no clue how it was to win a game. They had no clue what it's like to go to Purdue and Michigan State. They had no clue of what the season's all about and how competitive. This is not EYBL. This is not the Under Armour Summer Classic. This is not the Adidas Summer Classic. I mean, dudes, they decide what they're going to give and what they're going to take away in college basketball. They're not going to let you play to your strengths. Now, in the NBA, to be honest with you, the first 82 games, a lot different than the playoffs. So there's a lot more freedom and scoring opportunities. Ace Bailey is a really good prospect. But I think, when I heard him say what he said, the first thing that resonated in my mind was, this is the same dude that said he was going to the Final Four. So, come on, man. Did you learn your lesson? You think the jump from high school to college is tough? You get to the next level, how's your body going to deal with 82 games? How's your body going to deal with people chucking cutters and playing to contact and hard fouls? So, look, I think the guy's a really good athlete. And I love that he's confident and he's ridiculously skilled. All those things are great. But, someone's got to get in his ear and say, that last time you made that bold statement, it didn't work out so well. You're going to have 2 lottery picks, and you couldn't get to the freaking NIT.
Yeah, got you. Seth Greenberg from ESPN, college basketball analyst, joining us here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Derek, Kyle, Devon, with you. And with that, we also go to the Harper side of things too, Seth, because who knows? Stranger things have happened with that number 2 overall pick. You're talking about one spot. How would you see in the event that somehow, some way, Dylan Harper found his way into the 76ers organization? When you talk about the fit with Maxey, does that seem more like a seamless fit with a 6'5" guard in that way next to Tyrese Maxey to have that big guard next to him?
100%. Grown-ass man. I mean, that's really what it comes down. He's a grown man with a maturity and a toughness and a physicality, and a guy that can get to the rim, a guy that can see over the defense, a guy that will be a very good defender, who guy's game, his body is built for the NBA. I mean, huge. Just upside, elite handle, plays with pace, never gets sped up, elite finisher, toughness, will shoot it better. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Dylan Harper fan. I mean, how can you not be? He's just got a maturity to his game, and a feel to his game that is like next level.
So, Seth, to that point, we're big fans of Dylan on the show, but we've gotten questions from our listeners to the effect of, why is Ace maybe getting dinged for how Rutgers played out and Harper maybe less so? Like, can you lend any? Why do you think that's the case, that it seems like Harper is put up on this higher tier and that Ace is viewed with a little more skepticism?
Harper's body is built for the NBA. Harper plays a physical style of basketball. Harper doesn't just settle on shooting jump shots. He plays to the defense. Harper makes the game easier for other people. Harper rebounds his position. Harper impacts the game more different ways. Right now, Ace barely relies on one thing: scoring, right?
Yeah.
All right. And not a lot at the rim. So, I mean, the versatility of Dylan Harper, the plug and play ability of Dylan Harper, the body in terms of Dylan Harper, all those things. Yeah, I mean, both of them thought the college basketball was going to be easier, and I feel bad for Pikes, because Pikes is a really good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a really good coach, but this is the first time he also went through the one and done that things. Like, one and done's not for everyone.
Yeah.
You got, I mean, like, you got to be really good to manage your team and the locker room when you have 2 guys that the microscope's on so much that, look, you're only as good as your locker room. And if your locker room's not talented, nor is there, again, I don't know if there was jealousness, the injuries certainly had an impact on their team. But, if he's saying we're going to go to the Final Four, I mean, and again, I just think that Dylan Harper has handled the process in a very, like the son of a NBA world champion.
Mm-hmm.
I guess last one for me, we've basically talked about 4 people here, and 3 of them are guards. You've got Harper, Fears, Trey Johnson, all with different, and VJ, so 4 of the 5 that we talked about were guards, all of them with different levels of fit with some of the core that the Sixers have. How much do you factor in Maxey and McCain specifically if you were the one making this decision with the Sixers? Like, how much do you factor in the fit with Maxey and McCain, I should say?
I mean, look, Maxey, you know exactly who he is. McCain showed tremendous upside, but he's still a 6'2" guard, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think Jared McCain had a great year. I mean, until he got hurt again, I mean, he did a lot of good things. Do you replicate by going in that direction? I mean, do you take a swing and maybe trade down and get more assets and grab a Malawach and, have a rim protector and a lob threat and get maybe another draft choice out of it? There are teams that have multiple draft choices. I don't know. Derek Queen, to me, athletically is not a guy you can count on. Although he's really skilled and great hands and can pass it and has good footwork. That's a good point. I mean, it's a really good point. McCain, look, Max is an all-star. That's the face of your organization right now. Everything you do should be to build around that guy. How can we surround him with players that complement him? and then try to develop some depth, because we're seeing depth is huge. I mean, you see the Pacers' depth, you see Oklahoma City's depth, you see teams that have lack of depth. You've got to, you've got to grow your own talent and build your depth in, in free agency and making trades.
So, Seth, last one from me, and I think from all of us. Just if you, Seth Greenberg, are running the Sixers, 1 and 2 on the board, go as expected, flag to Dallas, Harper to San Antonio. Who's the pick? Who are you drafting and why?
Yeah, my gut feeling is I would take Trey Johnson, but I would take a deep, hard look at Malawach.
And that's a lot of that is you're not confident in Embiid moving forward, and you're saying I need my big man.
I'm saying move Embiid and get more assets. Move Embiid, move up in the draft. Move Embiid and try to get. Can you get? Again, I don't have the order right in front of me. I have it in this book over here, but can you get Embiid? Can you move Embiid and get in the top 6?
Got you. Okay. Real fast, Seth. For the Philadelphia basketball fans, another player, local guy, Rasheer Fleming from St. Joe's, also talked about somewhere in the lottery to maybe the mid part of the first round, some in the 20s. Just your thoughts on, you just said you love him. What do you love about him and his translation to the NBA?
He's got a dog in him. He can rebound the ball. He's improved as a shot maker. I'll give you my notes right here. I got him, somewhere between the end of the lottery and 20. Long, athletic dog, active defender, potential to shoot the 3, rebound range, great length, high energy. I think that converts into a winning player.
Nice.
I really, really like him. Now, I wish they would have won more games, but I'm really, really high on him. And watching him at the combine, that dude left it out. Like when he was doing all the agilities and all the different things, I mean, he went at it. And if you watch the tape of his individual workout with his agency workout, which I think is all bullshit, because you're playing, you're doing drills against blocking dummies and invisible defenders. I mean, if I was 19 years old again, I couldn't play above the rim, but I could do all those ball handling, back out, play through, Euro steps. I could do all that stuff. I mean, so be it.
It sounds like Seth Greenberg's got some dog in him. Maybe we get you on the Sixers roster.
Yeah, but I really like Rasheer Fleming. I think he was one, the kid, Maxime Renault, I think really helped himself in the combine. I think Rasheer really helped himself in the combine. And everyone who says he's a great kid. He's a great kid. And got a high motor, and I just like the way he plays. He's fiercely competitive.
All right. Well, listen, man, we look forward to, of course, just checking out any coverage during the draft. If you'll still be a part of it during the draft, we'll be checking you out, of course.
We're doing radio in the first, second round, the 2 rounds. So we're doing radio. They say I got a face for radio. I didn't make the cut sitting on the desk.
Well, you always got a face for our show, man. Anytime you want, and hopefully after the pick, maybe depending on what they do, we reach out to get your thoughts on what the Sixers ultimately do. Seth Greenberg, again, you can follow him on Twitter at Seth on Hoops. Check him out there, and of course on ESPN as the one of the top college basketball analysts there. Of course, Seth, thanks so much, man. As always, we'll reach out.
Thanks, guys.
Check in soon. Thanks, Seth Greenberg, joining us here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. So a couple of things before we go to break: trade Embiid,
draft Trey Johnson, or
Malawach, and Rasheer Fleming, and has the dog in him. And who else did he say has the dog in him? VJ has the dog in him. So everybody, let us know what you think in the chat about what Seth Greenberg had to say. We'll come back. We'll give our thoughts on what he also talked about, who he's picking at number 3, and we'll go all through it right here on this Tuesday, the PHLY Sixers podcast. And I gotta tell you about a lot of things here. This is my block right here, everybody, to talk about a lot of our friends here as part of our show. Of course, I got to tell you about Rothman Orthopedics and how I was able to get back to just being myself, walking around, running around, being able to do all the things that I need to do after my ACL and my Achilles. That was courtesy of Rothman Orthopedics, getting you back to what you love. Weekend warrior, raise my hand, and I'll say that, and trying to keep up with the young people in my family and things like that. You know how tough it is when your body just simply doesn't cooperate. You get that surprise injury, and you need to get it checked out, and that's where Rothman Orthopedic comes in, whether it's the pain from playing your favorite sport, an old injury, something that props up that is unexpected. Rothman Orthopedics will get you back on your feet and get you back to doing what you love. They have proudly serving dozens of communities across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Florida with 30-plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. Patients will find the full spectrum of orthopedic care at Rothman Orthopedics, from diagnosis to discharge. They provide their patients with every service and procedure necessary, such as x-rays, orthotics bracings, MRIs, physical therapy, and much more. And I have a big Tupperware bin at home of just this crap that I needed for my recovery. So you will get that thing, all that stuff. They will size you perfectly to make sure it fits your knee, your ankle, your arm, your shoulder, whatever it might be, to get you back. If you're in need of some help and you need to be checked out, go check out my people at Rothman Orthopedics. For more information, visit rothmanortho.com/landing/PHLY. Also, have to continue to talk about Cherry Hill Jeep. Everybody, you're looking for a new car, right? You're traveling.
Yeah, baby.
You need some space as you're taking these road trips every weekend, going to see some family, going to the beach, all that. You're looking for a Jeep or a Ram truck. There's only one dealership in South Jersey who has been the market leader since 1967. That's my friends at cherryhilljeep.com, and they have you covered on the best selection, but more importantly, the best prices. And they're celebrating the holiday this past couple of weeks ago, right? A couple of weekends ago with the Memorial Day weekend, all month long. They got you covered. So slide into Cherry Hill Jeep Grand Cherokee. Go check it out this month. Not only is it most rewarded SUV ever, it was also Motor Week's best mid-size utility vehicle for the past 2 years in a row. That's in addition to being the 2024 IIHS top safety pick. Stop in today. Tell them PHLY sent you and receive an additional $1,000 for your trade-in. I know people buy Jeeps and Ram trucks everywhere. I just don't know why. Drive in your home right now, Jeep or Ram truck today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at cherryhilljeep.com. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens, President of Basketball Operations, Bree, all of you in the chat. We thank Seth Greenberg for hanging out with us. Derek, your initial thoughts from Seth Greenberg and what he had to say.
Yeah, it was interesting because Kyle actually just mentioned this in chat.
I thought he was going to be more pro-ace.
He was very pro-ace early in the season, and he mentioned that he saw shades of Kevin Durant. Now, shades of Kevin Durant isn't a comparison to Kevin Durant. People can take that out of context. But that quote has resurfaced a lot on Sixers Twitter, especially from the pro-ace contingent. I knew he was a big Trey Johnson fan. I thought he would be a bigger ace. Like, he had more Ace Bailey skepticism than I was expecting.
I agree.
He picked Trey at 3.
Yeah, and listen,
Love it.
I think we've talked about it many times with Trey. Who might have the singular skill of the draft? It might be Trey Johnson's shot making, Trey Johnson's movement shooting, his combination. He compared him to Ray Allen once again. Now, not one-to-one comp, but if you think you're getting Ray Allen at 3, that'd be a hell of a pick. You can make it 3, regardless of what the roster is. I do think too, as a former coach for a long time in college basketball, I do think there's some degree to which he probably looks at a guy like Ace and is like, that guy was not an easy player to coach around. And so when that was why I really wanted to get into, why is Harper thought of a certain way and detached from, not completely detached, but detached at least a little bit from the Rutgers results, and why is Ace viewed more through the lens of Rutgers failed and like this is a mark against how he plays. And I think what Seth said reflected a lot of what I have heard and people have said about this process, but also the things that you just kind of assume, right? Like Harper being a son of a pro who comes off as more polished and has a pretty durable skill set in terms of the frame, the driving ability, the free throws, all that, where with Ace, it's a lot of you either make the shot or you don't. And if you can make a lot of shots, high value. If you don't, where does it all go? But I was surprised. I thought he was going to be more in the He's got a lot of potential. He's got a certain amount of size. As Derek said, the comparisons to Durant.
Yeah.
So that caught me off guard a little bit.
A little surprised because referencing what you did and asked him about the conversation that they had with him at the draft combine on the broadcast, they were having a lot of fun. They were talking about a lot of good things. They were very, very complimentary of his game and his approach too, his mentality. And he did hit on those things, but it came back to when you talked about the Harper part of it, but saying, hey, what have you learned? Now, the one thing is, can you learn in a veteran situation like he pointed out here in Philadelphia, which is what we've talked about? This situation is unique because of they didn't expect to lose this year. Yeah. They were still looked as a playoff team. So here they are with the number 3 overall pick. So I was a little surprised by that, but also to a lesser extent to your point about the Harper side of it, where he's not getting as much criticism while Trey Johnson is not generally looked at as the third best prospect in this. It balances out somewhere. Some are, some aren't. He just picked him at 3 for the Sixers. But also not necessarily, while they did get to the play-in situation of the tournament, they also had a maybe disappointing season, but he didn't ding him as much either because of maybe understanding and seeing what things are with him as a prospect, speaking with him there and taking accountability, if you will, of how things played out where, hey, maybe that was on some of my shoulders and I needed to be better to do so. So the accountability may have been there for Trey Johnson where just didn't see it enough, Ace.
Yeah. There are people in the chat who, because it's more Derek, but it's both of us have been, at least semi-vocal Ace skeptics. I think people are treating it as like, oh, we brought someone on because we knew they'd be anti. Like that was not the case at all. No. I thought Derek and I were going to spend the day getting dunked on by all the people who are like, man, Ace is great. And Seth was coming in to sort of confirm those priors. So it's interesting, right? Now, the other thing that I was surprised by, he has to be pretty pro Trey specifically. Yes. Because if you're talking about the things that he led with, right? The toughness, the availability, like the two-way stuff, all of that, that's VJ, right? And he talked about that.
Two-way, I thought he was
and he brought all that up just to say, I would still take Trey. And so, again, that circles back to a conversation we've had many times on this show. Seth watches a metric ton of college basketball, right? And so he has an understanding of exactly how big of a task Trey had in front of him this year with that team and that system and that conference. So to give him the vote of confidence at 3, there are people out there. We keep hammering this home, talking about him in the pre-draft process. He's getting good reviews for his work ethic, his interviews, and things like that. I think while I and Derek have highlighted his defensive woes and things like that, I think if you go back to high school, he probably graded out more consistent and maybe better when he's not just everything running through him.
And that's also the thing. Like, he is 6'6" with like a 6'10" wingspan.
Great
his
tools.
Wingspan is only like 2
Skinny,
inches shorter.
but great tools otherwise.
Only like 2 inches shorter than Ace, and he's a guy who's playing, off guard.
Yeah.
If he commits himself and adds significant weight, like there is at least a world where he can become a neutral or even positive defender. It's just he's got to really commit himself.
So when we were talking about Trey Johnson earlier in the year, like Kyle likes to, say I like the bucket getters, right?
And there's nothing wrong with that. Game is about buckets.
He can go get a bucket, and I was on it, and I would see the negatives, of course, that all 3 of us talked about. I'll even bring Vince in this conversation because Vince also was like, you know what? I looked at Trey, and then I'm like, all right, I'm out because it's just too much. Like, not enough passing, and the defense is terrible. You can see the body language and all that. But Derek, it has changed. And you even said it at some point right before the season started when the tournament was going on, but right before the Sixers season started, where you pointed out, hey, I might be able to talk myself back into Trey Johnson because of this and because of that. And then when we got to the tournament, they played the one game. He had an okay game. Yeah. He went out okay in it, but you could also see who his teammates were and who his teammates weren't and how he had to do a lot of things, similar to what you said about Jeremiah Fears. It has changed, and things change when you get more information, you get to watch more, and you get the some of the conversations that the league and the executives are talking about the scouting of Trey Johnson. So as we sit here and we hear Seth say that, not to say that that's who we would pick right now, but just going off of that, why did it change so much for Trey Johnson after April to where we are right now at the beginning of June?
Well, I think part of it is we've watched a lot of the other prospects, and there's no. I honestly don't mean that in a dismissive way, but there's no perfect prospect out there, and the shot making is elite, and I've always believed in that. And he is the one, and it's not just like Ace he's a really good off ball shooter, catch and shoot guy, great release point, so it's going to be real hard to contest. Movement shooter, but he doesn't have a lot right now off the dribble. Trey does. And that's really something that can bend defense. I think that's really important in today's NBA. But I think crucially, he is not a complete non-passer. Yeah. I don't necessarily love his decision-making, and sometimes the balance is off, but I think he has creativity that I've just never seen in Ace. Mm-hmm. So that's part of why, if you can get the context to change, and if you can get his buy-in to change, I think there's a little more upside, maybe not just pure upside, because Ace still has, the physical tools, but just upside as an offensive hub that I believe in just a little bit more. And also, like I said, I've watched a lot of the other guys, and there's just not a perfect prospect. And Texas was such bad context, and similar, more talented, but similar in bad context to Rutgers, where if we're overreacting to that context, then I just envision Trey as a hub of an offense better than I do most of the other guys in this spot. Like, I don't envision Khan as a hub of an offense. I don't envision VJ as a hub of an offense. Right. And I've talked about Ace and my concerns there. Yeah, he's going to be in the mix. And he's probably the next one where I'm just going to sit down one weekend and watch like 20 games in a row. Not in a row, over like a 2 or 3 day stretch, and really dive in, because you have to consider everything at that spot.
And real fast, I think it was Ja in the chat saying he's not 6'6" without the shoes. He's 6'4" and as 6'4" and a half. Right.
When I said 6'6", I was talking playing height.
Yes, playing height with shoes on.
Oh, interesting that you defaulted to that after our many arguments about this.
No, I have been very consistent on this. I think when you're comparing players, this is stupid. We don't need to get into this argument for the 45th time.
They play in shoes.
Yes,
that's my argument.
No,
6'6".
My argument is it's better to compare their height without shoes, because then you have a direct comparison. I don't care how big of shoes they wear on measurement day, but because so many people have it in their head of like, oh, well, Joel Embiid's 7'2". I use the 7 or the in shoes because it's what people have in their head when
I got that information from the PHLY.com. You go to the NBA draft guide from Derek Bodner
this is
and
like
Will Gottlieb.
Kyle and I's longest running debate.
I have been arguing with Derek about this from the moment the NBA said we're going to normalize measurements to without shoes, and I said, who gives a flying F?
The problem is you have to be consistent when you do it, and they're not going to. You can go to the Thompson twins, and they have the exact same no shoes height, and they're listed differently on the NBA's website. What are we doing here? Anyway, go ahead.
So in shoes, he's 6'6". And that's why we say 6'6". Kyle, I cut you off just to say that point.
No, listen.
They're literally identical twins, and they're listed differently.
I would say the other thing I wish we had had more time for, because I didn't want to, with Seth, was once you throw a Malawach in that mix, I really would like to drill deeper on, because it's one thing to be out on Embiid, right? We talked through that a little bit. It's another thing to be like, they need to get back into, the top 6 and draft this kid specifically, right? So I would have liked to get more insight to him on, why do you like Malawach so much? What do you think of him? Background, personality, all that. Which we don't talk about Malawach as much on the show because I don't think we viewed him as realistic. I will say he is definitely someone who's gotten high marks for not just the hard work, but also just joyous personality, kid who shows up with a smile on his face every day. I think Ace is in that bucket as well. You hear that a lot from people who played with him or people who have coached him. So
Trey Johnson also. Yeah. You get that with Trey Johnson as well.
So Derek and I did a long segment on this yesterday.
I was watching.
I think I'll reiterate it again today. I think one of the good things about this lottery, and frankly about the top of drafts now in general, you really don't get a lot of kids who make it into the upper echelon of drafts that you're like, oh boy, does he love the game, or is he a hard worker? Is he this? Most of these kids are scrutinized so heavily that they don't slip through the cracks anymore.
Yep. So a lot there, a lot to still ask Seth Greenberg about. Unfortunately, we only had a certain window to get some of those questions in. And he was kind enough to say that we can get him on after the draft. Maybe Malawach is a trade down option, and they do pick him up and we'll have an opportunity to talk to him, or just simply ask, hey, he went to Toronto. What did you like about Malawach going to Toronto? So we'll do more on what Seth Greenberg had to say when we get back. We'll take a quick pause. We'll tell you about the big deal as well when we get back right here as we talk about the Sixers in totality because of the questions that we have for Seth Greenberg from ESPN's college basketball coverage. It was a great conversation. He said a lot of things, and we're talking about it right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
Well, guys, the Sixers haven't been getting any jewelry lately. But if you are in the market, whether it's an engagement ring, necklaces, bracelets, whatever it might be, Golden Nugget Jewelers, our friends who operate out of the heart of Philadelphia, are here for you. They've been there for the past 30 years. They take in customers from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Baltimore, New York City. People come from everywhere to go to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement or wedding band. Having been through the process of shopping for wedding rings, shopping for an engagement ring, it's a very personal experience. Frankly, it can be pretty pricey depending on where you go. You want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck, that you're talking to experts. Golden Nugget has those exact people. There's a huge selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, high-end watches too, fashion jewelry, diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, much more. If you're in the market for that engagement ring, you get a final cleaning and written appraisal with every one of those purchases. And Golden Nugget Jewelers, if you're a local Philadelphian, they are family owned and operated since 1987 at Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philadelphia. Nothing better than supporting the locals rather than these big conglomerates and chains. You deserve an expert and the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more.
We also want to tell you about TrueMark Financial because summer is here, which means the kids are out and about hanging with friends, maybe even picking up a summer job. It's a perfect time to set them up with something that teaches real-world money skills and gives them a little bit of freedom. The Greenlight debit card and money app. If you're a TrueMark Financial member, you can get a free Greenlight account for your kids or teens. It's a simple way for them to manage their own money, whether it's from a job, allowance, or birthday cash. They'll get their own debit card, can get savings goals, track spending, and learn how to budget, all while you stay in the loop from your phone. You're still in control, but they get to learn how money really works in everyday life. So before the summer rush kicks in, this is a great way to help your kids build smart money habits that'll stick with them long after the season's over. Head over to truemark.com/greenlight to get all the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast, and we have to tell you about the big deal presented by Cherry Hill Jeep, who we just talked about a little bit earlier. Again, make sure you go check out our great friends at the Cherry Hill Jeep. All right, we got to tell you about the big deal going on in the NBA just before we came on
Moments
the air.
before we started.
Yeah, according to Shams from ESPN, the New York Knicks are relieving Tom Thibodeau of his duties as head coach. Thibodeau, of course, led the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years and made the playoffs in 4 of 5 of those years. Consecutive 50-win seasons for the first time since the 1990s. Tom Thibodeau, Kyle, out.
Yeah, and I don't want to say the writing was on the wall for this, but certainly there was a lot of smoke out there that, especially when you beat Boston, and I think at that point the expectation, fair or not, was hey, you're playing Indiana. Indiana's playing well, but this is not like a juggernaut team in the conference finals. And then you lose the first 2 games at home. You lose one in completely humiliating fashion in the final minutes of the game.
Which changed the series.
Yeah. And I just think, Tibbs is who he is, right? He's a very good coach to get you back to respectability, right? He's someone who comes in, instills a culture. He leans on basically 6 guys at all times. And there's a small runway for that, right? You get the first 2-3 years and he builds you back up. And then you look around and you say, we probably need a guy who's a little more adaptable, a little more creative offensively, a little more geared toward the playoffs in the regular seasons, not overextending people. So I think he did a very good job when you consider where the Knicks were at when he got there and where they're at now that he leaves them. But I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to say now's the time to to move on. It's just a matter of who's next. And I know Mike Malone is probably our running favorite at the moment.
He had what, 5 years? 5 years there? Something like that?
5 years there, and he signed a 3-year extension last summer.
Oof.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Horrible for the owners. Yeah, no, look, it really is.
You're going to have to put some more concerts at the Sphere to make that money back for James Dolan.
I think he's doing okay. Yeah, it really was awkward going to the Sphere and being like, oh man, I now have to give Dolan credit for something.
Yeah,
It
right.
pains my soul.
Right.
No, look, it is, that's a long time in NBA circles. It is wild now. Of the last 6 Coach of the Year winners, 4 of them have been fired by their team since. That goes back to Nick Nurse, actually, in Toronto, getting fired. It is, the most dangerous job in professional sports is an NBA coach where your team has expectations.
Yep.
And it really is like you can beat the Celtics, but if that next series doesn't go well, Now, look,
especially when you're now the top seed,
Yeah.
and you have home court advantage.
I've never been a huge Tibbs guy. I think he does a great job of raising your floor. Part of that is by playing your good players more minutes, but I also think he tends to lower your ceiling, in part because he plays your good players a little bit too many minutes. Like those two theories, that theory that makes him elevate your floor also then it puts a little bit of a cap on there, or at least makes it tougher to reach your ceiling because everyone is so exhausted. Do I think it's fair? Not. He had 5 years. He turned him around. He's going to get a lot of credit for that. If he wants to coach, he's probably going to get another chance to it. I do think there's something to get another voice in there, get another philosophy in there. But that being said, when your 7th best player is like Landry, like what are you going to do there? Like there's only so much. It's really more, and we were talking about this a little before show, it's really more of a regular season thing of like they should have been a little bit better rested then. I'm not sure there was all that much you could do when you're at such a depth disadvantage like they were in this series.
8th best.
What's up?
Mitchell Robinson, McBride.
Yeah, no,
6, 7.
McBride.
So let's say 8.
McBride certainly. Yeah.
So let's say 8.
Did I say 6? I meant they were 6 bet. It doesn't matter.
No, you're saying 7th best. But to your point, we talked about it. Just the guys playing so many minutes. That was the reputation going all the way back to Chicago,
Oh, yeah.
where we were talking
That was
about
part
Jimmy
of our
Butler
concern. Yes, 100%.
here, where it was like, well, is this guy going to break down sooner rather than later because of how much is on him, especially leaving Minnesota and spending that little bit of time in Minnesota with him as well. And here we are. Everyone knows he's a good coach, but as Derek, as you pointed out, maybe he's the coach that gets you set, and then the next guy takes you over the top. So Michael Malone is the one that everyone's going to throw out there.
Maybe Jay Wright,
I was
Nova
say Jay
Boys.
Wright. Is there anybody else? Because there's a lot of young coaches out there right now that are left. Let's just say that. And Phoenix.
Let me just Google which assistant NBA coaches are CAA clients.
Can I also just say, as it relates to the Knicks and them disappointing in the conference finals, OG shooting like 30 or 29% and Hart shooting like 19% from 3 after what they did to the Sixers.
Yeah.
It just disgusts
Well, listen,
me.
and that's part of it too, right? On the if you're going to be pro Thibodeau, I think part of what you'd say is they advanced further. Like they kept incrementally moving forward. And so if you're someone who generally believes in the Tibbs method of coaching, I think you'd say sort of what Seth did to open the show, which is it's unfair. It's like the guy kept moving you forward. Who's to say next year they wouldn't have taken another step forward? But I get it. 5 years in the NBA these days. It's a long time as a head coach.
Yeah. I thought he would get one more because of advancing, as you said, taking that step. And they did.
And just the way they did it too. Like they knocked off the presumed best team in the league.
And before
now,
anybody
injuries
says,
and whatnot,
Jason,
but still.
yeah, but they were going down in that series.
Yeah.
That was going to be a 9-point lead right there against Boston before that injury happened. So they looked like they were going to lose that game. And that is Tom Thibodeau fired by the New York Knicks. That's the big deal presented by Cherry Hill Jeep.
You know who is a CAA guy?
Jeff Van Gundy.
Taylor Jenkins.
I forgot about Taylor.
Keep an eye on him.
Ooh, forgot about that.
But listen, CAA mafia is real in New York.
I forgot about Taylor Jenkins. How about that? We kept saying Mike Malone. They were both fired.
Just for anybody who is not as clued in here, the Knicks are a big CAA agency spot. They have accumulated a lot of players and personnel who either
And
are
obviously-
represented by them or previously worked there.
And obviously driven by Leon Rose, who,
Yes.
as many people know, was Joel Embiid's agent at CAA before going to the Knicks.
Absolutely. So that is our big deal presented by Cherry Hill Jeep. Speaking about Joel Embiid, trade him is what Seth said.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that easy, but to his point about the Malawatch thing,
Yeah.
and also the team needing to be built around Tyrese Maxey going forward, Derek, trade Joel Embiid.
I mean, first of all, I don't think you're getting a top 5 pick in this year's draft.
Oh, no.
Like the value
That's where I
too
really
low.
branch off from him.
Where's Vince at?
Vince would do that in a nanosecond. No, I think I've said this before. I've been pretty consistent with it. I think you bring Joel Embiid back, you give him a chance to rehab both his value and his standing in Philadelphia. And if you have another season like this, then you reevaluate. And I understand that by saying that, like if you have another season like this, then his trade value is going to be even lower. Like I think a lot of people look at this as the nadir of his value, and that's not necessarily true. It's just the lowest it's been up until now. Now, I don't think next year is going to be as bad as this year was. It would almost be impossible for it to be, but that is a risk you run, but that is a risk I'm willing to take. I think you bring him back, give him another shot, and then make a decision from there.
I think something that maybe he didn't outright say, but indicated with his takes on the Sixers was, I think a lot of people have already started to pencil in Jared McCain as like core guy, right? And he was very clear. Maxey's your guy you're building around, right? And he wasn't just like throwing McCain off the boat, right? Said had a good season and a lot of promise and all that, but like less consideration for Jared McCain in terms of who you're drafting, what you're doing. And like the Trey Johnson thing probably impacts McCain the most. And so I think that's something to maybe keep in mind. Not to say that that's like the league consensus or how the Sixers are treating it, but I do think when Daryl has talked recently, when he's done interviews and he's gotten asked about Maxey and McCain, a little bit of downplaying of McCain, right? And I get it. He played, 20-something games? Mm-hmm. And Maxey is a guy who's got a much longer track record, has been on an all-star team, is on the max contract. So just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, very interesting. Again, the Trey Johnson thing. Ooh, didn't expect that one to be. Yeah, that's the pick. Trey Johnson right there.
Hey, listen, I feel like more smoke has been building on that front, right? I brought it up on Friday, but there have also been some reports over the last week or so. Like, yeah, he's in the mix. He's at least someone who will be considered. Whether they do it is another story. But
so we just released our updated big board over at the All PHLY Draft Guide. Me and Will. Now the big board ranking we have up there is a combine between our two rankings. I had Trey Johnson 4th on my big board. So I certainly don't think it's out of left field or crazy.
No.
I'm not sure I was expecting it from Seth, but I think it's a valid answer.
So how do you feel? Because a lot of times when we talk about Trey Johnson, it's maybe moving back a spot or two, maybe he's at 4 or 5, even 6 potentially. But taking him at 3,
I don't think you can move back because most of the move backs are like 6 or 7. I don't think he's going to be there at 6 or 7.
So
if he's your guy,
Trey
I think
is very much in the mix in the top 5.
I think Trey is a 3 to 5 guy.
3 to 5 guy. So just take him at 3 and just be happy about your evaluation. And
if I think that's exactly the right way to put it, Devon, is like if you're at 3 and you genuinely believe Trey Johnson has the most star upside, you cannot get cute and be like, well, we'll trade back 2 spots and hope nobody else takes him, right? You act with conviction, right? And one of the things that I don't like, one of the things I don't like this time of year is the idea like, well, you can't take that guy at this pick, right? It's like, you can't take him there if he's not good enough.
Right,
if you think he's going to be good enough, you can't risk other people taking him, right? If you think in your heart of hearts, if your draft board says flag 1, Harper 2, Trey 3, and you have him graded, let's just, for sake of argument, you have him graded 5 points higher on a numerical scale than anybody else. You say, I have much more conviction in this guy than anybody below him. You cannot trade out of that spot. You absolutely must draft him at that spot. I'm not saying that that's where the Sixers are or where anybody else is. But yeah, I think if that's your board, That's your board. Believe in your scouting. Believe in your ability to develop these guys.
Perfect example. This one might hurt because it hits a little too close to home. But the Celtics, right? People would have said, oh, we think Tatum's a 4th to 6th ranked prospect. You can't take him with the number 1 pick. Now, imagine in this scenario, there is no trade down. But if they would have said like, oh, well, we can't take him number 1, so let's just take Markelle and hope things work out. That is what you can't do. You can't take the worst player. Now, if you feel confident you can trade back, get a couple additional assets, and still get your guy, yes, you have to consider that, but you can't not take someone because you're in a spot. Like your goal here isn't to follow consensus, it's to get the best player.
Consensus just makes it easy for people like us and fans to talk about, where these guys are generally. There is no consensus in the sense of NBA team boards are not the public boards, right? They're going to have guys all over the place. We've talked about it with Ace, but it applies to every single one of these guys for the most part. I don't think there are many people or many teams that would have someone other than Cooper at 1. But after that, certainly differences in opinion.
Well, here's a consensus. It's going to be a pretty good day on June 14th. PHLY, 2nd annual Liberty Open that we have, that you must be a diehard member to sign up and become a diehard member, and then go over there and say, you know what? I want to go golfing with Jamie Lynch, Rich Hoffman, Fran Duffy, Tyler Zulli and his dad. You can also talk some basketball with these guys somewhere around Valley Brook Country Club. That is all presented by Xfinity. And that is, again, Saturday, June 14th. Starts at 2. That's the shotgun start. And you also run through about 7. A lot of cool things happening that day, presented by Xfinity once again. And you also get unlimited draft beer for 2 hours after the round. Contest on the course and the post-round raffle with Philly memorabilia. Tournament gifts and tee prizes as well. Must be a member of the diehard community, of course, with us at allphly.com. So if you're not, please go sign up and then go take a look and check it out, where you can join a foursome, $15 off an individual for the event as well. All right there at allphly.com. Hope to see you all there. All right, let's get to the super chats. We have 2, DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman, Bring Me a Dream. What is the breakdown of the Sixers salary cap and the second apron of the CBA? Can't they keep 3 max contracts? Can they keep 3 max contracts?
Yeah, I actually haven't carried it over with the new picks. What, like 11 mil, 10 mil?
Yeah, there's I'll pull it up. I believe it's in the neighborhood of 11 million, 11 approaching 12.
Okay. So the real thing is, the second apron is $195.6 million. That's first apron. I'm sorry. The second apron is like $207.8 million. You're not going to be under the first apron. In fact, I think you're going to be over when you add in that pick. If you add in that pick and you bring back, Grimes at like, let's say $15 million, you will be able to remain under that second apron. Really, the concern is in future years, you're unlikely to be able to use your mid-levels because you're worried about that becoming a hard cap. So long story short, they should be able to bring back Grimes, assuming he doesn't get like a massive offer from Brooklyn, keep that pick, and maybe use their taxpayer mid-level, but that's about it. They're not going to be able to use their non-taxpayer mid-level. That certainly won't, because that hard caps you at the first apron, and they will exceed that.
For the sake of accuracy, the third pick will make $11.1 million this year.
Okay.
So,
and I have so that would put
roughly
at 198, add another $3 million for Quentin Grimes, 202 with a $207 million hard cap. You're basically have about $5 million under the hard cap. If you add that third pick, if you add in Quentin Grimes at $15 million. So really using that taxpayer mid-level becomes tough.
This is why I love having Derek here. I don't have to think that much about the math. I can just let him.
See, I didn't say a word. Just let Derek have it.
Somebody else can do the CBA stuff. Let me just talk basketball.
I wish I could talk about it the way Derek does, but I know I don't. So
it takes a lot of work.
So I'd be quiet.
And understand it.
Let the calculator do it all and get it done. Well, quick overtime, everybody. Just a quick overtime here on this Tuesday. Make sure you head over to allphly.com. Thanks to everybody on the television side. The conversation will continue right there at allphly.com. Brian Pumper.
You know what time it is.
Yes, it is. It's the segment Beat Pump. If not Ace, I'm cool with Maluach if we get rid of old man Embiid. We lost 58 games, man. Long-term focus. These old geezers got to go.
Something that hurts my soul about calling somebody who's 4 years younger than me an old geezer. Obviously, I'm not expected to go out and defend Nikola Jokic and Anthony Davis and other guys.
And play 10 years in the league.
So I would say this, and we'll build off of what Brian said, but also what Seth said earlier, right? Like, the problem is that you just can't move Embiid right now.
Yeah.
The only way you're moving Joel is if you're attaching stuff to get rid of him. And I am just, if you're of the mindset that need to rebuild and retool, I think I'm with that, right? But if that's the mindset, you cannot bleed assets just to get off of Joel's contract, right? You can't be throwing away pick swaps and firsts and whatever else just to like clear the decks, right? Now, if you believe in Maluach and you say he's the best guy, again, take him wherever. I personally don't view him that way at 3, and we've talked about that a lot, but
I'm just trying to get my mind wrapped around Brian Pumper's evaluation, because like his main guy is Ice, who only gets buckets, and then his second guy is the guy who doesn't get buckets at all.
Doesn't dribble, who doesn't pass.
I'm so confused.
Well, he doesn't pass, so that tracks.
Appreciate it, Pump, for the Brian Pumper segment brought to you by Brian.
Ace Hardware.
Yeah, there you go. Ace Hardware and Ace Bailey. We appreciate it. Another name real fast, Johnny Bryant seems like he's a finalist for the Phoenix Suns job with Ott, also both of them with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So 2 assistants for Cleveland, seems to be a finalist for the Phoenix Suns gig. Well, now there's another opening, and that is the New York Knicks. Johnny Bryant was a former assistant there. So Taylor Jenkins, of course, we talked about Mike Malone.
Mike Malone, also a CAA client, by the way. So that's the he's the trifecta.
There you go.
As is Mike Budenholzer.
Oh, yeah.
So keep an eye on him.
No. Just to say it out loud, if I had a voice, no.
I was doing some CAA research during the segments of the show where you guys were talking.
All right.
Gotta look into it.
So that was our show today, folks. It's just some fun stuff. Seth Greenberg starting us off. So just to be transparent, Kyle said it yesterday on the show. We're going to try to start to ramp up some guests as we get into the month of June and things get closer. Try to ramp up some guests that are, of course, relevant to the NBA draft, the players specifically from where they came from in terms of their school, et cetera. We'll try to ramp up and get some more guests on as we get ready for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about some names that we have coming up here that I think you guys will get plenty of insight from, whether you're pro this player, pro that player, going to try to hit all over the board.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll do that. I'm off tomorrow. One more day off. I was off yesterday.
Must be nice. This guy's hardly in the office ever.
Off tomorrow. And I'll be back on Thursday and Friday with the team here as we continue to talk about the NBA draft, the latest news and everything with the Sixers. So just off tomorrow, and I'll be back on Thursday and Friday with the team. So let's get to it. The world famous roll call.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Also, obviously, to lead it off here, big PHLY roll call shout out to Seth Greenberg for coming in and firing from the hip. He came in, we didn't know what to expect, and he gave us some great insight.
Dropped a couple of bombs in there.
That was a good time. Seth is welcome around here anytime, as are all of you in the chat, no matter where you're coming from, what your takes are, or how you feel about all these prospects.
Yes.
We love having you here. Thank you to Mellow 3 Point, to
Mellow,
AA Ron, to Big AD 97, to my girl Winona.
Hey, Nona.
To Darkness.
Turn the lights down. Oh, Tom Thibodeau. My bad.
Brian Knight, INS.
What up, B Knight?
Duck Holiday. Did I say Bootzilla?
No.
Bootzilla.
Boots.
We got Densley, who I believe is a big Ace guy. So Densley was not happy with Seth's takes today.
Said don't bring him back.
Hey.
LOL.
Densley, I think we'll have somebody in the near future who might be more of a guest that you'll be into. We'll leave that where it is. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Philly 0024. Our guy Eugene Ross.
What up, Gene?
Better call B-Ball Paul.
That's right.
Greeny Green. Ja.
Ja.
Lee Nguyen. The letter N.
N.
Always have to. You can't just say N. You have to say the letter N.
So is
even
he
though
like
the name is just N.
from Men in Black, where they just had the initials? All right.
You're not allowed to know that. That's top secret.
True. That
right?
is true. My bad. I take that back.
MIBs, yeah, they're top secret. They're dealing with aliens.
Yeah.
Habib 215, Music Lover 31, Marcus
Remember, like
Blackstock. Who else we
What
got
up,
in here
Marcus?
today? You better love somebody.
Love
Beat
somebody,
Pump
love
as
somebody, love
always.
somebody.
DJ, aka Mr. Sandman.
Bring me a dream.
Jay the Jungle. Will.
What up, Jay?
Igavini. Jess with the Purple Heart.
She got the Purple Heart.
Gary Baker hanging out with us today.
What up, G?
What's up to Gary? Who else? Elaine Bruno.
Man, you haven't heard from
Uncle
me.
Fester in the building.
Get Uncle. What up, Unc?
Be careful who you get married to, Uncle Fester. Some of them are after your money and your mansion.
Yes, they are.
Kyle Wright hanging out here. Didn't realize we were going to go down an Adams family.
Good call.
Love the Adams family, though.
Saw Sal in there, too.
Phi Chi, Sal, Just Tom.
What up, Just Tom?
Did I say Money Mar? I don't know if I did.
What
But
up,
Money
Mar?
Mar, you're good money with me. Keystone Brad and our guy Al, the 2-minute warning.
What up, Al?
Somewhere out there lurking in the universe.
He'll be back when he likes the prospects.
Guys, thank you everybody for being here today. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to get notifications each and every time we go live, and hit that thumbs up button to help us out in the algorithm, of course, but also to say thank you to super producer Bree for being here, making it all work, bringing in the guests, throwing up the graphics, doing everything that we need, being our president of basketball operations, our number 1 overall pick. Forget number 3. Number 1 overall for Bree.
Number 1.
We'll be back again tomorrow at 3 p.m. Devon is off. Derek and I will be here for some propaganda one way or another. You know what it is. 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Be there, be square. Until then, see you later.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.